All right, y'all. So we've been having some rather candid conversations, and I've been opening up to y'all about some of my deepest thoughts and opinions on some things. And I thought that this would be another good one to share with y'all. Trans people used to scare me. And I know that may sound weird coming from somebody that plays such a flamboyantly gay character as Funky Dineva, or for those of you guys who can't understand, if I, Funky Dineva, or both is a trans person. But I will say this, transsexual people, in particular trans women, meaning men who are born biologically men and went to women, used to scare the entire shit out of me. Before we get into this video, let me just forewarn some of my trans community that I'm going to use some inflammatory language, but it is only to illustrate my previous thinking, and it is not to, demean or disrespect in any way, shape, or form. So listen, y'all, I was born in Miami, Florida. Y'all know that. And basically I lived a very basic inner city life with very minimal exposure to openly gay people, and to my knowledge, non-exposure to any trans people at all. And if I had come in contact with a trans person, man or woman, I was unaware of it. All right. I get to college, I get a little older. The only somewhat reference of trans people that I have are like back alley scenes from Law and Order, or stories you hear in the news, or when people do comedy skits on TV with a man walking horribly in heels and they refer to him as a tranny, or they're like that. Those were the only experiences and exposure I had with trans people. I come out of the closet, start going to this gay club in Miami called Club Boy, which is in Liberty City on the corner of 79th Street and 7th Avenue. Lo and behold, 79th Street was also the whole stroll, the tranny stroll. It's where transsexuals that worked sex work walked that stroll. So let me walk you through my first exposure to a trans woman. Parking my car at Club Boy, getting out of the car and seeing these scantily clad, over exaggerated shape, manly looking women walking the beat. So off rip, I already had my face tooted up. I had all these preconceived notions because in this society, we're taught to shun prostitutes, period. Streetwalkers, period. We look at them as less than degenerates, and I fell victim to that way of thinking. Then when you add on top of this, you're not even a real woman. You a man, and you look like a man, and you look high, and you got razor stubble on your face, and it was just a mess. So I somewhat grew this disdain for them, and I felt like they were circus freaks. All right. And then outside of that, I go into the gay club. I start hanging at the gay club. I'm seeing them walking the beat. Okay, I learned to overlook that. Then I get exposed to trans performers and like drag queens performing in Miami in the club. Now, I'm going to say this because I can. Living in Atlanta, but being from Miami, on the Miami black gay scene, the performers are just not as nice looking as the girls in Atlanta or the ones that you see on RuPaul's Drag Race. Back in the early mid 2000s when I was hanging out, the performers looked like little boys playing in makeup and wigs. They looked like Funky Dineva, okay? So then that added to my disgust. I was like, do you see yourself? Like, you look silly. Like, you got these titties and this hair growing at your face, or these like with this deep ass voice. And then now that you drunk and you derobing, like you just really look bad. You was like, what is going on? Get your circus freak ass away from me. All right. Then occasionally somebody would perform and they would, pull their bottoms off and this big old dick would come out. Or I would see an occasional porn with the titties and the dick, and I just did not understand it, y'all. And because I didn't understand it and I was ignorant to it, I formed all kind of opinions and frowned my face up and was just like, keep that shit away from me. Causing further division in an already segmented community. Oh, and don't get it twisted. It went the same way for the female to male trend. I could not understand why these women were walking around with these 3 or 4 strands of damn chin hair. And I'm like, why don't you just cut that shit? You look stupid. Like, even a real boy, and I don't mean to offend by saying a real boy, a cisgender boy would not walk around with 3 strands of little hair, not recognizing that was a badge of honor and a symbol of pride for them. Okay, here's where the story gets better. So I moved to Atlanta. I'm coming out. Hey, I don't got a little taste of being out now, baby. I'm ready to go to the Mecca of being out. So I moved down to the Atlanta, honey. And my friends start taking me to the Monday night drag show, Stars of the Century at the Jungle. And then I start hanging out at a lot of black gay clubs in Atlanta. And so at that point, I started meeting a lot of trans individuals that were highly coveted in the community as opposed to shunned where I came from in Miami. And after hanging out for a while, I started to develop my walls started coming down, and I no longer looked at them as circus freaks. So then I began to admire the artistry that went into drag, and that these transsexual women also, exemplify when putting themselves together. And for some of y'all who don't understand, a drag queen is totally different from a transsexual. That's another conversation that we'll have. But in short, a drag queen is somebody who lives as a boy and performs in drag. A transsexual is, someone who lives the whole shebang as the desired sex. Okay, y'all get it. So then as my popularity on the scene kind of grew, I started shaking hands with these trans individuals, exchanging numbers with these trans individuals, even got drunk one night and kissed one. And that was kind of weird. That's a whole nother video. But then I was completely desensitized to them being trans, and I was able to see them for the people that they were. I was able to shed my preoccupation with you having titties and a dick bigger than mine, because that shit, it blew me for a while. And once I got more exposure, more familiar, and got past the exterior and was able to create relationships with these individuals, a lot of what I was feeling and what I thought about them and their lifestyle and all these negative opinions that I had slowly dissipated. I don't know if TS Madison knows this, but when she and I became friends several years ago, and I felt comfortable enough with her, I asked Maddie every ignorant question I had about the trans life. Like, I talked to her about every stereotype that I had about trans people, and Maddie really helped my evolution because she was a safe space where I was able to ask these questions without offending people and without her judging, because she knew I was coming from a good place. One of the biggest things I did not understand is that, and to the point that I talked to Maddie, I was really judgmental with trans people because it seemed as if all of them were escorts, prostitutes, posting ads on Craigslist to get fucked for money. And I'm just not about that. Like, and I don't care who you are. I think it's low down. I think it's second rate. I think it's nasty. I think all these things, part of which I was bred to believe, and much of it I do believe. I don't have any respect for it. However, Maddie broke down some things that forever changed my perspective. She said to me, Dineva, you don't know what it feels like to be born in the wrong body. So as you're coming up, the only thing you can think about is getting corrective surgery to get out of this prison cell of a wrong body. She's like, you know, you want titties and you want hormones, and it costs. And she was like, the quickest way to get that money up, because you want it now, is sex work. Okay? When she said that, though I can't relate being born in the wrong body, I can relate to being imprisoned by social constructs and what society says a boy is supposed to be and how he's supposed to act. So, you know, I was able to relate on the fringe, but when she broke it down to me, that made sense. She was like, you don't see go to college, you don't see buy a house, you trying to get out this body. And the quickest way you can get this coin is the oldest profession on the book, prostitution and sex work. Then it took another friend of mine who's a gay black man, but he's a scholar in academia, and he explained to me, Q, traditional employment is not available to trans community. He was like, you know, the unemployment rate is this in America, but it is even higher for the trans community. There is a lot of work opportunities that are not available to them. So piggybacking off of that conversation, I went back to TS Madison, and she was like, Dineva, a lot of the girls walk the streets because they have to. She was like, nobody want to, but she was like, if you a boy in transition, where you finna work? Who finna hire you? Who finna hire you and you still, and this, she introduced me to the word clocky, which is slang for clockable. And she was like, who finna hire you when you going through transition? What job is you finna work growing titties out your chest and facial hair at the same time? Who is finna hire you? And I thought about it, and you know, in my prior ignorance, I really thought it's just as simple as, you know, bitch, go fill out a job application and get a job. Failing to take into account my own experience is different than theirs. Quite frankly, and this has always served to my benefit, I am the non-threatening black man type. When I go into an interview, I can turn it on and people love me. So because of that, I always thought, shit, getting a job is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Never taking a step back to realize it's not that easy for everyone. So while you're being judgmental about them having to walk the street, or them being escorts, or them posting ads on, you know, Craigslist to have sex for money, did you ever stop to think that maybe that's the only work available to a lot of them? I don't agree with it, but I understand. I don't think I'll ever get to a point where I'll say out of my mouth, yeah, girl, you going to work tonight, you going to do your sex work? Yes, God, honey. I don't think that'll ever be me. I just, you know, I look down on it. I do look down on people who prostitute and escort. However, it's given me more compassion. Because now, as opposed to I just thought they wanted to do it because it was the thing to do, I thought they wanted to walk around and feel like fish and just be fucked. I've come to realize that that is not the case at all. Oh, excuse me, that's not the case at all. And that for a large part, particularly in urban communities or impoverished communities, it's the only type of work available to that demo, which is sad. And when Maddie said that to me, it made me feel very bad about all these preconceived notions that I had, because I kept saying to myself, with all the trans people getting killed and shot in New York and different places, walking the beat, you know, prostitution for heterosexual people as a whole is a dangerous career. Why do they keep doing it? But now that I think about it, you know, I don't think that anybody would purposely put themselves in harm's way on a consistent basis if they did not have to. Now that I ponder upon this even more, and we can all form our opinions and talk shit about trans people having to do, sex work occupations, and not all of them, because there are some people out there who have never had to do it, but a vast majority have, particularly trans women. But think about how many places you've gone to and you've seen trans people working there, that were noticeably trans. Like, I can't think of many outside of fast food. And to be perfectly honest, like, you can't maintain an apartment, yet alone an apartment and a car, off of a fast food salary. So nonetheless, I think I'll save the economics of being trans when I get a little more educated about it, and I, sit down and talk to some more people. I definitely want to do some sort of video series where I bring in Maddie. I've been wanting to do this for some years, actually. Me and Maddie just have not gotten around to it, where she and I sit down and discuss this very topic, and I asked all the ignorant, the not known, the outside of the trans community questions that everybody has, and for her to debunk a lot of these myths and just, spread some awareness and awakening to the masses like she did for me as it related to the trans community. I will say this whole experience with trans people and the education that I got through experience and with Maddie, it transcends this one topic, and it actually opened my eyes to a lot of things in my life. This one experience made me realize, Q, what else is there in your life that you've got strong opinions, strong negative opinions about, or fear about, and quite frankly, your opinions and fear is rooted in the unknown. And so that alone has made me a bit more curious, a bit more optimistic and open mind about things that, quite frankly, I didn't understand and were just judging on the surface. And with that, the moral of this story is trans people used to scare me simply because I was not exposed to them. And then once you get familiar with them and realize they're not lions, they're not dogs, they're not freaks, and they don't bite, then you don't even notice the fact that they're trans. So I think, using that analogy, we can apply my learning lesson to a lot of things in life that we don't know about, but we seem to have such strong opinions about. Nonetheless, that was on my heart. I needed to get it off. I can check that off my list. And I'll call you guys a little later. Bye.